Multiple times a week, my department gets requests from all kinds of companies and organizations wanting to know if we want to advertise on their platforms. We hear from radio stations and magazines and billboards and websites and coupon books, literally anything. When I first started, it was very hard to discern which opportunities were worthwhile and which ones were just a waste of time and money, which was most of them. Today, we're going to run through a crash course in traditional mass marketing. When to use it, when not to, and when using online ads is better, which is pretty much most of the time. Welcome to Blackbar. Hi, I'm Caleb. First, let's talk about traditional mass marketing techniques. The definition for mass marketing is right in the name. We are marketing to the masses. Mass marketing is more or less standing behind a metaphorical megaphone and screaming to as many open ears as possible, hoping to find the right ears every once in a while. Most of the techniques you think of when you hear the word advertising are probably mass marketing techniques. Magazines, billboards, TV commercials, radio ads, mailers, everything. There's another thing that many of you probably think of when you think of these mediums. They're dead. Let's address the elephant in the room. I'm not talking about traditional mass marketing today because I want every church to go out there and rent a billboard. Far from it. I'm talking about it because I get more mailers from churches than any other type of marketing. I often see billboards for upcoming sermon series and service invites. Like it or not, most churches seem to be a bit stuck in a very old school idea of what effective marketing is. And I don't blame them. It's not like they teach this kind of thing in seminary. But what I want to do is help explain how these traditional mass mediums work and why they're dying out, and if you should still be utilizing them. Let's talk about a hypothetical church that wants to invite their community to an Easter service. They've set aside a budget to get the word out and are looking for the best bang for the buck marketing strategy. The first thought, and honestly a logical one, is how can I hit the most people for the smallest amount of money, right? Good stewardship and all that. In marketing lingo, we call this maximizing impressions. An impression is counted every time someone comes into contact with your ad. If your ad were a billboard, your impressions would be equal to the number of cars that drive by it while it's up. It's important to note that these are not unique impressions. If the same car were to drive by your billboard every single day for a month, it would be counted each time. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Some studies have shown that it can take up to 8 impressions per person for them to actually take action on your advertisement. That being said, focusing entirely on impressions is unfortunately a very shallow way of marketing. The biggest problem is that many of the people who see your ad aren't interested in your product. Let's go back to the Easter ad again. First Hypothetical Baptist has decided to spend their Easter marketing budget on mailers for the surrounding community. Every one of those households counts as an impression. However, let's say that 30% of this hypothetical community already has a church to attend on Easter Sunday. We've effectively paid for impressions that don't matter. They won't work. You're advertising a product for customers who aren't buying. Maybe another 15% practice another religion. Another 10% doesn't even check their spam mail. You start to see the picture here. More important than impressions are what I call effective impressions. An effective impression is an impression on your actual target market. In this case, we're looking for Christ followers or Christ-interested people without Easter plans or church homes that are within 15 to 20 miles of your church. If there was a community that was full entirely of exactly those people, a mailer would be an incredible use of marketing dollars. Unfortunately, neighborhoods aren't usually divided by religion, availability, and church attendance. This problem isn't unique to mailers. Nearly all mass marketing techniques deal with this issue to an extent. You can help mitigate the issue by using communication methods that more accurately represent your target market. If I was selling a new gourmet dog food, I'd technically reach more people by advertising in People magazine, but I'd reach more of the right people by advertising in The Modern Dog. This is the next evolutionary step in marketing. This is known as targeting. Whenever I say that word, it's almost always met with raised eyebrows of some kind. There's almost something inherently insidious about it for some reason. It's slimy. It's really, really not. It's the definition of wise stewardship. I think we can all agree it would be a waste of church resources to advertise an Easter service in Idaho with a billboard in Texas. 0% of the impressions would be effective impressions. I think we can even agree that putting up the billboard 50 miles from your church is probably a bad idea. maybe only 5% would be effective. Wouldn't it make sense to get that number as close to 100% as possible? That's all targeting is. We're narrowing down our audience as accurately as we can so we can deliver a message with as much impact and precision as possible. Targeting becomes incredibly important when we start talking about the third and final piece of the puzzle. We have impressions, we have effective impressions, and lastly, we have conversions. No, not that kind of conversion. But if you do it right, it could be that kind of conversion. An advertising conversion is when someone decides to take action on your advertisement. In our Easter ad, this means someone actually attending the service. If we're selling a product, a conversion would be a purchase. Conversions are what we're aiming for. I personally couldn't care less how many people see my billboard. I care about how many people had a chance to meet Jesus at our service, you know? So how do we turn an effective impression into a conversion? That requires an important skill. A vital piece of strategy, a beacon of light through the darkness. Sell, don't tell. Anyone can tell me about an event. It's your job to convince me that the event is worth my time. Sell it to me, make me feel something, make me want to attend. If you want to learn more about that subject, be sure to check out the video on creating effective church ads linked right up here. Believe it or not, you now have the 3 metrics you need to be watching for when considering any type of mass marketing method. First, you need to know how many impressions you should expect for the amount of money you're spending. Any organization that offers advertising space should have this number. If they don't, pack it up. They are not worth your time. Divide the number of expected impressions by the amount you're spending and you'll have your CPI, or cost per impression. That's how much it costs you to have a single set of eyeballs on your ad. After that, you'll have to do a bit of estimation on how many of your total impressions you believe to be effective impressions. This might mean driving around the neighborhood, asking around, or even looking at census information. Multiply your CPI by the percentage of impressions that are your intended audience, and you now know how much it costs to reach people you're actually looking for. At the end of all that, it's your job to build an effective advertisement for that very specific target demographic. If you do all that right, you'll finally have an effective advertising campaign. Congratulations. All that being said, it's all a little bit useless if you don't have an idea of what a good CPI or conversion rate looks like. This is where we turn to the new gold standard. This is where we start looking at online marketing. There's a reason why these online companies are worth so much money. From an advertising perspective, they work really, really well. This is because due to their incredible targeting systems, you can effectively make your audience 100% effective impressions. Using Facebook and Instagram alone, you can target by age, gender, geographical location, relationship status, interests, political affiliation, music taste, job title, education level, what they've studied, if they have kids, how old their kids are, if they've recently moved, if they have an anniversary coming up. It's terrifying and incredibly, impossibly powerful. This is why mass marketing is having a hard time keeping up. Although in most cases you can hit more people with traditional techniques, the targeting tools provided by online advertisers make it so you don't have to spend a dime on a single set of eyeballs that isn't exactly your target demographic. This type of targeting allows you to get many times more specific than what traditional mass marketing techniques could ever dream of. Just think about it. You can craft a hyper-focused message for a hyper-focused demographic. You can present the gospel in a way that connects with an incredibly targeted niche in a way that generic messaging just can't. Right now, for $500, my church can reach 25,000 people who are between the ages of 21 and 35, are within 20 minutes of my church, and are either married or engaged. I can hit them with ads for our Young Marrieds ministry, purpose-built to speak to them at the stage of life that they're at. This is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about when I say that we can use the tools that businesses around the world use to make millions of dollars a day to reach people with the gospel in a way that hasn't been done before. This is 21st century evangelism manifested. So regardless of what you're trying to advertise, I hope this video was helpful in pointing you in the right direction. There is a time and a place for every medium, even the dead ones, but knowing what to look for is the key to spending your ministry dollars wisely. Thanks so much for watching today. If you want to dive deeper into anything we talk about here on the YouTube channel, make sure to check out the podcast available every single Wednesday. Make sure to join our online Discord community to meet other church creatives and media people working together to make each other better. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.